Okay, Realm comic book fans, this one's for you. Well, I was at WonderCon 2011 last week, searching in vain for anime boobs and butts to look at. I instead wound up talking to a huge influence on my life from the world of pop culture. His name is Bruce Timm, and if you're anything like me, you've been following his stuff over the last 20 years, maybe without even knowing it. He's the fearless leader who helped create Batman the Animated Series, Batman Beyond, Superman the Animated Series, Justice League, and Justice League Unlimited. Holy hell, the man co-created Harley Quinn, for God's sake. Anyways, he and his team were at WonderCon promoting a Green Lantern animated movie called Emerald Knights. It's actually by the producers of the live-action Green Lantern movie. So I stopped in, ask a few questions, and try to contain my nerd boner for all things Bruce Timm. Emerald Knights, so it's basically a 6-part anthology piece. Can you talk a little bit in terms of storytelling, the advantages of an anthology versus a full-length narrative?
It was kind of an obvious idea when it was brought up that we have this huge galactic police force of all these different alien Green Lanterns, not just our nice identifiable human character. So even though Hal is in the movie and he plays a big part in it, each of the individual stories focuses more on these other alien Green Lanterns that you don't normally get to spend that much time with.
Right.
So it was a chance to explore just some of the other different flavors in the Green Lantern universe.
You mentioned Gotham Knight, which is very stylized artistically. Does this have a similar specific style, or is this back to more of the...
Well, Batman Gotham Knights, I thought that was the thing that made it most interesting to me, was the chance to see 5 or 6 radically different visual interpretations of Batman. Mm-hmm. We didn't go that way here because as great as Gotham Knights was, it was really difficult to coordinate that film because we had 5 different directors, 5 different studios, 5 different visual looks. It was really hard to coordinate. So here, for a variety of reasons, we decided to at least start with a common framework visually. So we started with the designs from First Flight, and again, because there's so many characters in this movie, if we had to design everybody again from scratch, it would just been like we would still be working on it.
Right.
So we got a little head start by at least starting with First Flight, but then there's all these new characters that are in the film as well that did all have to be designed, and some of them had their own worlds that needed to be designed. So it still was a big design challenge.
You're one of the mentors to the other Green Lanterns, correct?
That's right. I'm like the drill sergeant in boot camp.
Right.
They come to me, the new Green Lanterns, and they're green in more ways than one, and I'm training them what it means to be a Green Lantern, what it means to work as a team, what it means to maybe have to sacrifice your life to save someone else, or to save another world or another, I don't know, universe even.
So do you have a background in comics, or is this all new to you, or how did you...
Oh, I love comics, man. I grew up reading old comics. My favorite comic book character was the Atom. I loved him.
He was the guy who could shrink down
He
super
could shrink
small,
down
or get really big sometimes.
Get really
too.
big sometimes, and just radiate everybody and blow people up. I like characters with big character arcs where they start off, maybe sad or angry, and they end up being a hero, or they start off a hero and then end up falling into, disruption and greed. Or something, you know what I mean?
The full arc of something.
Yeah.
But some people come in having absolutely no experience in this world. They have no idea who Green Lantern is. They've heard of it, but they don't know what that world is. And so Bruce Timm is such a enormous library of knowledge as far as these things that oftentimes I'll defer to him and say, Bruce, can you sort of explain some of the background in a concise version for this actor? Because I can do it, but it'll take me a lot longer to get to the point.
You've got Elizabeth Moss from Mad Men, but you've also got Henry Rollins, Kelly Hugh. In terms of matching up all those different eclectic parts and balancing between this person's possible, but how do I know they're right for this role?
That's a very, very good question. We put together, and this is a group of us all together, Bruce Timm, the animation directors, DC Comics, they all input their ideas of who they would like for various roles. And we sit together with TV guides and go through them, okay, who's hot now, what's going on? And you can always tell what TV shows Bruce and I are watching because you'll see all the actors from Firefly at some point or another in pieces that we're working on. And then of course there's always that aspect of going back to people who have played some of these roles before and asking, would you guys be okay if we used Kevin Conroy as Batman again, or Mark Hamill as the Joker, or whatever? And it's always nice when they say yes, because it's a little bit of coming home when you get to work with the same actors you worked with before.
Is it easier to get invested in one sort of microverse at a time, or is it just... I assume your knowledge at this point, it's not that hard to bounce between universes, but...
It can be. It's actually... the nature of my job these days is I bounce around from 5 or 6 different projects all in the same day. So it's a little hard to kind of keep it separate in my head. Sometimes I'm like, okay, which Green Lantern show am I working on right now? Is this the CG one or the movie one or which Batman project? And it's like, hey. So it's I'm not really good at multitasking, but I've been forced to have to do it the last couple of years. So.
Right. And one final thing, this might be a long shot, but next year will basically mark the 20-year anniversary of when Batman the Animated Series came on. Are there any plans for any kind of retrospective thing or a new...
Not that I know of, but now that you've said that, I'm sure there will be.
Okay.
So yeah, I think it looks pretty cool, and I just wanted to share that with you. Because while video games are what we're here for, every now and then I like to show you some other cool shit I think is awesome, just in case you're interested. Until next time, keep the faith, Realmers.